everyone, welcome to Tom's Trading Room. This video, I want to discuss Bitcoin. All right, I know I promised in my live stream earlier this week we were going to get into some other topics, but this is too important to ignore, especially for those of you that follow us in spotting opportunities, creating alternative risk trades, and planning, executing, and managing those trades. Big three things that developed in Bitcoin this week. Number one, we hit a bottom in Bitcoin. Number two, we saw a 1 week turnaround. And number three, where do we go from here? I want to talk about each of these in detail. Before I do, however, this disclaimer that you see on the screen, you can pause the video and read it in its entirety. I want to mention two quick things before we begin. Number one, stock options and crypto. Well, we know they all have large potential rewards, but they also have large potential risk. And number two, I'm not your money manager. I'm here to show you how it is that I trade these markets. Okay, here's the news. Last week, all right, so last week we had some bottoms that occurred, and we had a market that really went in and just hit new lows, closing lows in Bitcoin for the year. After that, we had a big rally. This is some of the news we saw. Elon Musk holds $1.3 billion, Tesla does, in Bitcoin position, all right? CNN's reporting Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and Ethereum are suddenly having another great week. Bitcoin mining difficulty parameter set to increase for the first time in 8 weeks. All right, that's Bitcoin news. And then the Daily Hodl says that popular analysts are predicting parabolic second phase of Bitcoin bull run. And also the bottom is in for Ethereum. Now, it's interesting that just a week ago, the majority of these guys on this screen were talking about how negative cryptocurrency is. This is not it. I mean, here's some more news that came out. If you take a look here on Hyperblast, they say Bitcoin sourced over 40,000. We know that 6 week high. Wall Street Journal also talked about the 6 week high. And then Tom's Hardware. They're not affiliated with me. Tom's Hardware says that Amazon is set to accept Bitcoin and is developing a crypto strategy. Now, Amazon has since come out and debunked that, but I do believe that they are working on something, and I do believe we're going to hear about that. Now, here are the three things that I saw as a technical analyst, all right, looking at charts, looking at things outside of news that caused the entire market in cryptocurrency to drop and then have an instant takeoff. Number one is what I call the shakedown. The shakedown really occurs is we had a triple bottom that happened. And when we hit 30,000 back in May, and then we did it again earlier this year, and then we just did it again last week, that caused a lot of retail traders to just simply get out of the position because they didn't want to lose any more than they were looking for. And a lot of them said, if it goes below 30,000, I'm out. Well, it did that for one whole day. Back down here around the 19th and 20th, we saw what we call the shakedown. It's where cryptocurrency turned over the average retailer and shook them until they made their decision. Now, an interesting thing that happened after that is we saw the turnaround. The turnaround continued into the weekend. I want to show you another chart. This is a chart of the Bitcoin futures markets, that Bitcoin futures that trade on the CME. Now, Bitcoin futures are a leveraged instrument. You know, there are some buyers out there that did very well on Bitcoin futures, but what happened on Friday afternoon is Friday afternoon we saw the markets moving lower. We saw lower highs and lower lows occurring on BTC. And a lot of traders shorted this particular security going home for the weekend, expecting Bitcoin to drop into the mid-20s. Now, when you're shorting one of these, every one contract is good for 5 Bitcoin. So they had, for instance, if we were shorting at 30,000, they had $130,000 in play to the downside for every one contract. Well, look what happened on Saturday and Sunday. And then Sunday night. So what you're seeing is Friday afternoon's close in Bitcoin. And then you see the trading gap that happened. This is where Bitcoin trades on the weekend. The futures markets opened back up again Sunday at 6 p.m. with a big gap. And then it traded sideways only to run up extremely high into Sunday evening. I believe a lot of these traders got caught off guard and had to buy back their positions, which helped the initial thrust earlier this week in Bitcoin. Finally, here's another thing that happened that really got everybody off guard, and it was called the fake bearish triangle. The fake bearish triangle occurred when we hit those lows back in May, in June, in July, and then again at here at the end of July before running up. There's that 7-day run that I was talking about again. So the biggest question on everybody's mind right now has to be this: where do we go from here? Well, I've got one chart that I think will help answer that question. And the chart you're seeing right now on my screen is a Fibonacci chart. Let's blow that up so you can see it real good. So the best chart that I have to determine targets. And to look at this chart, if you follow along with me, here's the highs back up there around 63,500. And then we started that descent that came into last week. And the lows last week, the closing low last week on Bitcoin was $29,795. That was before the 7-day rally that you see here in front of us. Now, where do we go from here? Well, I've got 3 areas we call these retracement points. These retracement points are what I'm looking at to help determine where Bitcoin is likely to go. From the high to the low, we are looking for rallies to hit these 3 targets. What are these 3 targets? Well, they look like this. Target number 1, the 38% target at $42,693. Target number 2, the 50% target, that's where Bitcoin goes from the high to the low and retraces back half of what it lost. That target is set to be $46,677. And the 61% target takes us back 61% off the bottom, would take us above 50,000. That would be 50,661.07. In summary, many people agree that there's a bottom forming in cryptocurrency. I'll let you know this. I believe that the bottom is in for Bitcoin and Ethereum, at least for this year, as I also believe that we very well could be seeing higher highs than what we got back in April. Number 2, much of what I showed you today, all right? Looking at short squeezes, looking at volume, looking at multiple days going higher, and more importantly, looking at Fibonacci levels that are still above today's price of Bitcoin, make me believe that we still have not seen the highs yet. And number 3, while this is not a guarantee, I use these Fibonacci retracements as targets. And I believe they're fantastic targets, especially when you're looking at something as volatile as cryptocurrency. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Show us some love, like below. Subscribe if you're a new user. We welcome you, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye now.